Yo, what's good, gamers? My name is Dr. Ryan Terrell, Psych Sensei here, and thank you for joining me in this episode of QueueUP. Before we load in, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe so I can continue to vibe and bring you these insightful conversation. And also, please remember to visit my website, psychsensei.com, if you'd like to receive your mental blue buff to help you on your constant climb of improvement. And if you're serious about improving your mental, sign up for a free consultation where you and I can sit down, figure out your win con, and start stepping in the right direction today. And remember, friends, stronger mental wins. In this episode, we get down with the powerful Kyle Fergusson, who is a Heroes of the Storm, Pokemon Unite, and Dungeons & Dragons content creator, dungeons master, and podcaster. In this insightful conversation, we cover a gambit of topics, including how to stay true to yourself and your passions, his love for all things ew, gross, don't touch me, the intersection of parenting and video games, all the way to aliens and ghosts. This was crazy. Are you stoked and ready to queue up? I know I am. Let's get it. What's good, gamers? What's good? My name is Dr. Ryan Terrell, Psych Sensei, in the queue with my good friend Kyle Fergusson, the sultry voice of the Nexus, podcaster, content creator, you name it, he does it. This is my good friend Kyle. Kyle, say hello to everyone.
Hello, everybody. Pleasure to be here.
Oh, that voice, that voice. So, Kyle, I'm so honored that you are here to talk with me in the queue, and I would just really love to hear more about your story, who you are as a person, and if you just really want to start from the beginning, I'm just curious, how did you even get into the whole personality content creating space? Was this all to plan, or did you just fall into it, man?
A little bit of falling into it. 2009 was a very interesting time, is the thing. There's no streaming yet. There's only iTunes as a podcast source for anybody doing independent radio. I graduated from FSU, Florida State, with a degree in theater and journalism, and I wanted to go to Chicago and do the radio thing. So I called around to all the radio stations. I'm doing like the 1975 sort of like, let me start in the mailroom kind of thing. And they're like, no. There's no such jobs. That's not the way this goes. And being the recession, 2009, nobody's leaving their jobs. The radio's full of just nothing but old folks. So it was kind of the decision of, given the technology at the time was a Mac Mini, and what we could actually produce, my friend and I, Brock and Vola, started a show called Biggest Fan, which was basically like every podcast possibly on iTunes. It was, we watched something in the week, we would report on our opinions on it. Like I remember we did Jersey Shore and the Kardashians.
Oh, man.
And we just riffed as best we could and launched it into the very, very ununified web that was iTunes 2009.
So you must have watched a lot of trashy TV.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. A lot of really bad stuff. It wasn't a good work to show ratio because you're talking like 15 hours of TV for a 90-minute show. But it was the only one I did. And other than that, you're just trying to get by with a theater degree in Chicago. So I worked at bookstores. I worked security. I did a mailroom, which wasn't actually at a radio station. It was at a gum factory.
Close enough.
Yeah, right. Still ended up in a mailroom here and there. Cleaning copiers was one of my jobs for a while. I did do the coffee shop thing. I didn't do the absolute full actor restaurant thing, but I did end up for a year being a barista.
Did you say you worked security?
Yes. I'm a little shy in person, but I'm 6'3", so I got the job pretty well.
I'm trying to imagine you be mean to someone, and I just can't, it doesn't compute.
It was kind of a kill them with kindness sort of thing. Technically, 2000, this would be 10, it was called loss prevention. So you weren't allowed to accuse anybody of anything. You'd be like, excuse me, sir. And this is an exact scenario. I notice your bag is a little square. Can I help you out at the front with that? And that was even pushing it. Like that was like, oh, you're being a little aggressive there. Like you can't exactly call them out because you can't chase outside the store. There might be a lawsuit of accusation or something, defamation. Like it was a complicated field, but basically security was having a low voice. And if the person had a lower voice, you'd sort of like get in this like,
low voice battle.
Exactly. And then they'd be like, oh, what are you saying? And you'd be lowering your voice to try to be more assertive, and it'd get pretty darn silly.
That's so funny. So like, how did you end up finding like video games or meshing your love for video games with podcasting and content creation?
That's a little bit of happenstance. I was still playing and loving video games, didn't really have much money for them, but still love the video games. Garrett Weinzierl had a friend at Blizzard, and he got 2 keys to the StarCraft 2 beta. And before that, we had worked slightly together to do a source book. Basically, I put together a think tank after college of anybody I knew that was at all interested in just not doing normal job. We have degrees. He graduated in graphic design and art, knew other artists, friends. I had a lot of theater friends from graduation. I just pulled everybody I knew that just wanted to at least do their degrees work of job. We would meet once a week, and we'd see what we could come up with. And one of the things birthed out of this was me and Brock going off and doing a podcast together. But we started working on like a source book. Maybe it would become like the core Bible for a video game eventually. But just like this world, it was like this cyberpunky, kind of classic Fallout-y sort of world we were putting together. Garrett came at me with a Nerf gun that would shoot batteries. And I was like, that's awesome, man. Like, we're starting to riff, but slowly, week after week, people just kind of fall out because life gets busy. And this is just your free time being taken up. It's all volunteer, no pay, of course, in our little think tank. And Garrett, Brock, and I were basically the last ones left in it. So Garrett gets these beta keys, and he's like, I know a guy who likes to work. Why don't we make a show, you and I? You do a podcast. Why don't you and I together? And him being a huge fan of Scott Johnson, the instance, make a podcast about the upcoming game, StarCraft. I was nuts for StarCraft. I love StarCraft. I was currently playing it because I couldn't afford new games at the time. So I was back playing Brood War again. So that weekend I got my job at security, I also got the beta key for StarCraft Wings of Liberty, and we started up that show.
I know someone that likes to work, and he likes StarCraft. This thing must work. And then from there, you guys just kind of took off. What did you like about StarCraft that you just nerded out on so hard?
It's the same thing that kind of goes from MOBAs. It's the person factor. There's personality in how people play. You're never going to have the same game like you do versus computers. You just start to see those seams, You start to, they always do this when I do this, and it gets a little predictable. But people can be high energy outside their own league. They might be playing really good today. They might be playing really bad. They're tired. They might get tilted if you destroy them a bunch of times. Now their play kind of changes. In that way, the multiplayer games satisfied what I love about Dungeons and Dragons as well, which is this interpersonal experience you have. And then I just love monsters. I love the Zerg, I love the Ultralists and the Hydralists. And then there was also the custom maps, and people made their own maps. And this was the first time in 2009 that like people started coming together on the internet to create things in the form of those custom maps. We had an actual forum, like an honest, like doesn't exist anymore, just normal click on the discussion thread forum. And it was really, really busy, and people were sending in calls to the show and coming up with their own ideas, making their own maps and submitting them. It was a real cultural phenomenon because it was a Wild West in that way, much like WoW Classic or Vanilla. It's not called Classic because that's the re-release version. Much like that was its own Wild West of like disinformation and confusion. That era for StarCraft was without leaders. It didn't have people talking about the game that people played at home. And only just a year later after it's released did any sort of like esports enter the public mind.
So it sounds like, and you didn't say this, I'm following this story, putting it in my own head, almost as if you created this community that really got excited about StarCraft. And you said that there wasn't any leaders back in the day, but it sounds like kind of were maybe one of those pioneering leaders for that community.
Well, and I do want to say leader as in perhaps the people who were talking about the game as it is for people at home. There was already developing that esports scene. There was what was known as the pillars of the community, which started up the State of the Game show, which is all about the pro play. And the pro voices were very well amplified. And Blizzard, of course, grabbed onto those because they're the strongest and most dedicated voices. And they get the most fans and all sort of that. And they sort of projected those out. But in that way, much like the instance did for World of Warcraft, there was this opening for people who were just talking to the players and what they were experiencing at home.
How did you get from there to streaming, to actually you in front of the camera doing things and playing in front of people?
That was horrifying. I remember I attached my camera up into like the corner, and I even wore a hat on my first stream, so like it blocked my face.
Mysterious. I love it.
Oh yeah, yeah. It would be mysterious if I was like great and like amazing at the game and just destroyed, because then I could be the mysterious stranger and like, whoa, who is this guy? But instead, my initial streams were like me playing Mass Effect that lagged the whole time because my computer could barely handle streaming it at the same time. I played God of War 2 for a bit and had like 5 viewers for that. But when the streaming came, that was Here's the Storm. And that was very much along the same line of thought. There were a lot of, that would have been 2012. Yet a lot of people who were very confident, mostly pro players, who had entered the Blizzard sphere and said, I'm going to stream and I'm going to show you what high-end play looks like. But my goal was to get on there and say, hey, I'm like you. Let's watch my games here as kind of a show of me dealing with what you deal with. Let's go see the tilt and the quitters and how you overcome this and how you deal with those sort of thoughts and how you look at making a comeback. Nowadays, there's a whole genre for it. So many streamers are educational, or they're also in the middle league. Some are just hanging out with their communities in low leagues, and it's not really thought of as an odd thing. But back, and it feels weird to say like 9 years ago, but back 9 years ago, I mean that like a small amount of time, not like as an, I'm surprised it's been so small. It was very foreign to turn on with the full setup and the expenses it took to run a stream and sit there and say, hey, I'm middle of the road. And we're now going to deal with the mentalities of playing with other people who are angry and middle in the road.
What was it like for you to take that leap to say, I'm going to do this, kind of being a pioneer in that area?
Well, a bigger leap was already taken at that point. So it was kind of a make or break it sort of situation.
What do you mean?
Because I was working downtown Chicago, and I worked for an app company, and I was doing data entry and all this sort of thing. And the big boss pulls us in downtown Chicago building. You know, things are already getting pretty nice for the company. And they say, we went public. Woo!
Yay.
Nothing's going to change. Everything's going to be great, guys. And then he's out. Like the leader is out that week, sells out, gets out of the company, and everything changes. Like the whole personality of the place changed. It's perfectly understandable in like a roller coaster tycoon manager employees kind of way that you have to clock in. But we were just nerds at our desk. We didn't have to clock in yet. So all of a sudden we have to go to work, be there exactly on time, clock out at the right time, note our lunches, and the little bar goes by as your lunch goes. Like the whole culture changed. Me and my wife, Kristen, we just kind of went, no matter where you go, there's going to be this uncertainty. No matter what job you have, whether it's farming, you have the weather, or you have app companies here and their stocks, things are going to be outside your control. So what if you love the beach, I love the mountains? What if we just picked up everything with the gifts we received from our recent marriage, and we used that money to move to the West Coast and moved up to outside Seattle and lived in the mountains and the trees and just saw if we could get this thing working? After all, we worked at grocery stores before. And if it all goes belly up, well, we'll just work at grocery stores again. That's the worst thing that can happen, is we'll end up back at a grocery store. And that's not that bad.
Shout out to Kristen. Continue. That's a great story. It's a great story.
She's amazing. And we did that. We went out and we left everything we had built career-wise behind, and we started just making content and trying to make Into the Nexus, which was just starting up, profitable. And a thing called Patreon came about then. And we were working as ghostwriters to pay the bills, which, if you're not familiar with that, you get paid to be quiet that you wrote things. So don't trust divorce articles out there, because I may have written them for lawyer firms and I was using Wikipedia, but you had to hit the keywords and, you know, like, and then they'd be like, okay, cool, I wrote this. And they'd sign their name at the bottom and they'd pretend, you know, because, you know, ghostwriting.
Right. And they pay you.
Yeah.
You might. Yeah. Got you. I got you.
Exactly. So the Patreon was starting up, and it was just another aspect of it. The show was often about talking how we were dealing with what the people were at home. Streaming was a way to showcase that. The camera then was at normal level in a normal room with, eventually it was Walgreen green paper, like the paper you use construction project, and just pasted behind me with a rudimentary green screen and started making streams.
That's so incredible. The next question I have, the answer is you just got to do it. At the same time, I still got to ask it. You said make it or break it, but I'm wondering other things that helped you in that moment of, I don't know how this is going to be. I'm not sure how this is going to pan out, but this is something that I wanted. What was that like for you to make that step, to gamble, to risk it all, to move to the mountains and go for it, man?
Well, there were a lot of walks outside, which was nice. And it was very pretty and temperate. Kristen is a machine. She's an amazing just writer. She was really able to pound out those articles pretty well for even the sort of per word pay they were giving. She was prolific at it. And I spent a lot of time just trying to figure things out. And a lot of that was self-motivation, posting things up that would get 5 views and 3 views and a stream for 2 people. It was freaky. And that pressure of you just got to keep doing it. And almost you hear like the expression 1 foot in front of the other, and you just got to keep walking. There's also other expressions like you're either going up or you're going down. You're never staying still. And those are all true. But it was more like really cold water. Each subsequent pool was colder than the last. But if you just stayed in that pool long enough, it'd be comfortable. But you couldn't get comfortable. So you had to go into the next cold pool. And you just kept like, okay, this is going to make me really scared. All right, this part makes me really scared. And that is condensing down a mass amount of time and many, many conversations with my wife, just terrified to put myself out there and do these sort of things.
I love that metaphor, that picture of going into colder and colder water, but knowing that you have to do it. I'm wondering, did the intensity of the coldness ever get less, or did it always feel as scary as the last pool?
It's kind of hard to predict what the next scary thing is going to be sometimes.
True.
I've always had this ability, if you will, to feel all my extreme like shutdown fears on the back end. I think that's kind of like an introverted sort of thing, is I'm willing to step out there and do the thing, and I'll do the thing. Then once it's over, I'll just like full on collapse and be like, that was so much. Oh my God, I'm so terrified. But I was able to do the initial thing.
I could just see that close the door. Oh my God, we almost died. Like there's that episode of Rick and Morty with like exactly it starts like that.
Exactly.
I was not in control that entire time. We almost didn't do it. Wow, so you just really pioneered and pushed through, and it's cool that you really found something though that you enjoyed. So from Starcraft, was it straight to HoTS, or there's other things that you found in between?
Well, I always loved Dota. I loved Warcraft 3, Defense of the Ancients, then Valve made their own version. And at the time that came out, I was really busy just doing the day job and keeping StarCast as like the one thing I could kind of maintain the StarCraft show. But the StarCraft team made Heroes of the Storm. And StarCraft was having some interesting issues, an extremely long meta. There was a kind of feeling from the lead balance designers and devs that the players couldn't handle change, or it would be too frightening for them.
Interesting.
Perhaps changing the meta without a expansion, because they were still doing expansions, right? Like, so you just wait for Legacy of the Void. Things will change when we add new units, which is such a foreign and crazy idea today, years later. Like, change the game. We're being driven nuts by Swarm Host and Guardian meta every single game. And they're like, we're going to wait for the box product. So here comes Heroes of the Storm. It's an alpha. It's changing fast. There seems to be a lot of energy behind it. A lot of the main StarCraft designers have all globbed onto this thing. They're really digging it. And so we kind of moved alongside that. And using my MOBA experience, it was very easy to commiserate with all these people who were saying, man, people are really toxic in this game. It's like, yeah, well, welcome. This is the MOBA sphere. 1v9, as people often joke. Yeah, I'm going to 1v9 tonight. And it's true enough.
What did you like about Heroes of the Storm when you first started playing it? Because it's kind of like Dota, but it's kind of not. There's definitely a team aspect. So what really made you jump into it?
Well, there was no last hitting, which was nice. At the time, trying to train my friends to enjoy, and I'll put it that way, Dota, but it's an oral tradition, much like games were before 2010. You didn't know how to play something unless someone sat you down and showed you what it was like. And ThoughtBot for WoW and all these sort of other websites, they were only so helpful. You had to sort of discover on your own. So last hitting and the jungle rotations, and we didn't have a word like rotations yet. I'm trying to teach people how to play this stuff. And here comes a game that says, we're going to get rid of that. And the person in the jungle, they're actually going to contribute to the rest of the map by creating these units that push. And then it had everyone's favorite characters. So no longer were you saying Earthshaker. Yeah, that's kind of like a Tauren, and once was the original model from Warcraft 3, but he has all these earthquakey abilities, and let me now describe the items you must buy. And instead it was Uther, who stuns because paladins stun, and heals because paladins heal. And so there was just a lot of people entering that scene who needed the guidance, but also were just excited to absorb after being part of Blizzard communities. They knew they had to learn in order to play.
So it's a little easier to step into and easier for you to get your friends excited about it because of Blizzard and the culture of Blizzard games that you've had experience with previously. Is there a type of unit or a specific hero that you gravitated towards when you first started playing?
Oh, originally I played a lot of Tassadar, but he was
Oh, original Tassadar, man. Good times.
he was like a magey sort of business and very different than he is today. He had Resurgence of the Storm, so he could instantly res at level 20, and you could make big plays off that.
Now the wall's built in. What's this stuff, man?
But I'd say when I really, really dug Heroes and knew I was going to like commit hard to it for a long time, it was around Asmodan release. Because in Dota, because of items, your character gets power from the things they purchase, and then that goes into their base stats and their abilities. Very rarely, though, does it touch spell power, and it never really touches summons, at least at the time. So here comes a game with no last hitting and all these other things that scales evenly. We all gain XP together, and summoner heroes actually work because they're tied to a group level rather than money or items or whatnot. And summoners always in Dota got like banished to the woods, or we got these weird support roles. And oh, you use your awesome water elemental to scout the whole time. And you're like, well, but this is my awesome water elemental. I want to fight with this thing because it was too weak. The guy would get fed on the enemy side. Oftentimes in Dota, people killed your summons. They got money for that.
Oh,
So Asmodan being in lane, imagine he summons a whole bunch of
demons,
stuff all the time. Yeah, and everyone's like, oh, let's clean those up. We're going to be rich.
Those are just free money bags that he's releasing every time he pushes a button. Not bad.
Exactly. Like, yeah, he took our fort, but we gained 2 levels of XP off that. So, we win.
Oh, man, just think if Beatles gave you XP or whatever. That'd
Right?
be crazy, man.
Right?
So you really got into it after Asmodan's patch just because you really liked the XP and the gaining of the magical spells-esque things, not the team, but just that specific person?
Well, more so too that, I'm a Zerg player and I love huge armies. So him summoning big waves of stuff and marching alongside all the AIs, I get really excited about that sort of thing.
So is your then favorite map Braxis Holdout?
At the moment, yes, but that's because I'm a Dirty Cassia main and I get lots of stacks. They've never quite captured me on that feeling in Heroes. But there's these old Warcraft 3 maps called Castle Defenses where you would have a hero up on a wall and you'd just get sieged and sieged and sieged until you couldn't hold out anymore. And I loved it. Skeevy's tower defense. I love them. Love it. I got to lose, though. If I play your game and I don't lose, I'm bored. So they've never quite had that feeling, but I understand why they can't. Because the game would go too long. If you gave the buildings battlements, we'd all be in chokes and they'd be actually a detriment versus real players. It gets real messy what my kind of fantasy of a castle defense is.
So balloons, were you a fan of balloons back in the day?
I can't get behind the monkeys and the balloons. I desperately need monsters. Like, the best way I can put it is if your monster can touch me and I don't feel grossed out, I'm not like interested. I need that, like Husks in Mass Effect 3. Gross. Don't touch me. You're freaky. Zombies, Left 4 Dead, XCOM, lots of freaky monsters there. Skyrim, I get kind of bored quickly because like you see like 5 enemy monsters, models, and same thing happens in World of Warcraft. Like I can see the skeletal structure and they're like, here comes the new boss. And I'm like, that's a troll model. What do you, I've seen that thing move before. I'm not afraid if it touches me. And that's why I play a Disc Priest because I'm like, shields, don't get near me. Oh my God, this is what I dig.
If you're gross and you're scary, please don't touch me. That's the monsters I'm into. Have you played like Gears of War Horde mode?
There's a very particular problem, and that's the bouncy camera. I have motion sickness. So part of the reason why I'm so nuts about top-down strategy games is because I'm a horrible shooter. And third-person cameras are really rough in multiplayer. I love Dead Space. Don't touch me. It's great. Dead Space is amazing. But I definitely play on controller so I can do the set the gun at like the head level and then move in a very like grid kind of fashion. So if I want to aim up on you, I walk towards you. And if I want to aim lower on you, I back up because that lowers the sort of reticule. So when I play Doom, I basically look at one corner of the map and then sort of run around and never really turn myself and kind of memorize where all the bouncers are so I don't get motion sick.
Almost as if you turned yourself into a mobile tower defense, maybe. A walking tower.
I'm nuts about summons. I love like turrets, any game where it's you put up a little turret, like, there we go. And then, of course, with balance, they're like, well, turrets can't be, we're going to have to nerf that in the ground. I'm like, well, I'm not playing Overwatch then.
Yeah. Let's give that fun. Let's play the next one. So what would you say is your current favorite map of HoTS?
I like Alterac Pass. It has its issues with like the over poking that can happen with like chromies and junkrats that can be frustrating, but there's enough walls to make wall-based heroes like Diablo work. There's enough open spaces and that kind of back and forth between the middle part that is spread out around the opening in the ice and then back into the tight areas around the actual turn-in, and that kind of open up and close and open up and close, and that back and forth there just really is satisfying in kind of a battleground augmentation kind of way.
I got you. So would you say that you're more of like a macro player, you're more mechanic when you approach HoTS? What kind of player do you think you are?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I'm not mechanically amazing, and I do enjoy macro. It's helped a lot that I now play with that Cavalier guest who is an amazing coach for teams, and he's taught me a lot about the income of those sort of things. I would say probably combo based would be where I shine the most. There's a certain criteria, a sort of fill in the blanks in my head. And that's why I love Diablo of certain wall across some other certain wall, combine this together. Yeah, I now have a double stun. What I get really excited about in a versus sort of field is doing nothing and then seeing the criteria to be awesome come alive in just a hot second. And then you, and same thing happens in card games. Like, I'm not interested in like I don't want to rush. I don't want to like play a bunch of the goblins. What I want to do is sit there and draw and then play a big giant thing and have like 3 enchantments that make him invincible. And that's how I win the game.
Oh my gosh. Another thing that made me think of is that TikTok of, and now I draw up a pot of greed. And you see him like draw like, that kind of style of play and then just a wombo combo to end it all in one big nice.
Love Yu-Gi-Oh! It's a great show. I hope it teaches kids math so that it has some sort of value, but Kaiba's just the best in the world. And very much so. Got to get my 3 blue eyes in my hand before I want to do anything.
So a fan of tower defense, big combos, and a nice big hand of cards to smack you in the face with. That's pretty funny. I like it.
Exactly.
So you said you're going to be busy in a couple of weeks. What do you got coming up in a couple of weeks?
We have episode 400 coming up pretty soon for Into the Nexus, so we're kind of working on that a little bit in the background. But DMGI, the D&D advice show I do, is firing up, and that's a season, so 10 episodes of a D&D 5th edition advice show. So that's all written. It's a 15-minute show, but per moment of content, there's no co-host, which means filling that air is just content. You got to write that up and you got to get it all ready and get it recorded and get the sounds made. And then we just started up AO's Clubhouse, which is the Pokemon show for Pokemon Unite. And that's been awesome and doing amazingly. But all that sort of stuff, I have a really kind of crazy varying schedule right now that goes 2 days Pokemon, 2 days Heroes of the Storm, 2 days D&D, and then I do Big Family Man on Sundays.
How do you run this schedule? Just like in my head, I'm trying to conceptualize all the things that you're doing. And then not only showing the things that you're doing, but all those other things running in the background, like writing, editing, all of it. How's your schedule?
It's interesting and wild. It's become a lot more uniform since my son arrived 2 years ago, just because kids get up. He's like he'll wake up and he's just like every day, like, oh, right. Like, I love life. Let's do it. Up, everybody, and gets us going. But before that, it was a little more like, well, I desperately need to take a nap right now, so I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to upset anybody needing to do this nap. And I might work till 4 a.m. because I have the freedom to do such things. Nowadays, things are a lot more 9 to 5. And my wife, she has the title, and she loves this title, of domestic CEO, is what she calls it.
I like that.
Yes, it's a great title.
That's a TM right there, yeah.
Well, and she does a lot. I think we were talking off air, but I'm dyslexic. So getting things written online, I need that spell checked. So I often do the recording and do what my written version is of the posts. And then I hang out with my son, we party and we do bath time and dinner and all that sort of thing. And then while we hang out in the evening and read books and stuff, she comes into the office here and spell checks everything and gets it posted. She also handles all the taxes of running an independent business. So it's easy for me to say, well, yeah, I'm in the office and I'm the breadwinner. But from 6 p.m. to when he goes to sleep, Kristen's in here making sure all the paperwork functions. And that's also great as doing the D&D and the creative sort of thing, because if you're focused on the dollar-to-dollar day, you're not feeling very like in space. So the fact that she handles all the finances and schedules all the payments of the things means I can keep my head in the clouds.
So basically what you're saying, Kyle, is find yourself a wife, a partner, someone that's going to help you with the things that you need, because this sounds like your partnership with her has just really allowed you to be so creative and pursue the things that you really want to pursue.
I mean, it's amazing. She's extremely supportive. There's other ways to do it too, where both people work. But oftentimes, the creative side is going to be a big drain on the finances there because you're paying a service to do the posting. You're paying somebody else to do the whatever have you, much like kind of a daycare situation. You have to take those resources and then use them to produce the creative stuff. Whereas what we're doing here in the home business with podcasting and streams is making resources out of the creative stuff.
What is it like to pursue this passion and have such a structure to it? 'Cause I'm guessing that before it was kind of like do whatever when it kind of needed to be done, but now it seems that there's a flow to it. So what is it like to be so structured in your work?
It took some getting used to, certainly. It's also just diversification of titles and jobs and all that sort of games. Because back before, I'd say Legacy of the Void time period was a little bit of a wake up for people because they're basically like, we're done with StarCraft. And it's like, oh, I've made a career out of just this game. And then the canceling of HGC was a
Right.
very big wake up call for a lot of people who just straight up casters, people really following the heavy professional scene. All those jobs just disappeared. Into the Nexus had its niche of, well, we're talking about the home game. And as long as the home game gets balanced, the show will continue. No harm done in a sense. Of course, harm done to the overall feel of the game and how people perceive it. But that showed us that there had to be certain markets, certain avenues that you pursue, but also there needs to be multiple shows on multiple topics because any day the weather could be bad for the farmer. The boss shows up at the app company and says we went public. And in this case, a company says we're done with esports or we're closing our game.
Do you ever feel drained from all the creative diversification that you're doing from day to day and thinking about these different?
Burnout does happen. It's not entirely easy to get over, but being able to change topics 3 times every week definitely helps. And Sundays are amazing because they're often full of some like awesome activity like going to the beach or going to the zoo. And it's so different to hang out with my little man, be just completely focused dad. Kids are amazing at telling if you're not focused, by the way. It just, oh, you're distracted. Like, let me do anything in my power to get your attention now. That sort of rhythm can be broken. And it's more of just a bummer because you know you're going to get over it. You're going to be fine on the other side of this burnout. I love my job. But sometimes you're just like, oh.
I feel you. So other than playing with your son or just being dad or being someone not creative, like what are some other things that help you kind of fight through the burnout?
Well, I keep certain games very much to myself, and that
Ooh,
helps
okay.
out a lot. Monster Train, Magic the Gathering Arena, Darkest Dungeon. There's a lot of games I really, really like. Knows how I kind of said turn-based games, so nothing real time. That'll, be busy. I'd love to get back to like Dark Souls and stuff like that. I love working hard and feeling like I'm dodging is kind of the main job right
Mhm.
now. So I make a very conscious effort to say these games are mine and they will not touch stream. I do not want to know what optimization is. I don't want to know what your deck list is. Yes, I'll be forever gold in Magic the Gathering. I do not care. Whatever, I'm not going to share these games with anybody because this is the way I relax.
Wow. So keeping something that's yours, and business. How long did that take you to figure out?
A bit. I'd say the biggest struggle for it came when I started doing D&D content because always in the background I had Dungeons and Dragons and that was my hobby and what I would do. But Critical Role and shows like that started taking off. People were really hungry. And again, it's like the internet. D&D is an oral tradition. You didn't know how to play
Yeah.
D&D unless you played D&D.
Mm-hmm.
And so you had to have the old man roll into the village
Mm-hmm.
and do the story so you could tell your kids, so you could tell your kids.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden people are like, hey, I can watch a stream and see what D&D is about. I want to play that. And when that happened, it was wild and it was crazy. And I've had a lot of friends that were coming to me for their D&D fix or just hipsters. Hipsters love D&D. They just wanted to touch
Hipsters
it.
love D&D.
They just wanted to be a part of it. Like they just wanted to have said they played it once or something for cred. It was great. So I had a lot of one shots and a lot of fun with that. But when I started making that switch to add D&D content to the lineup, that was the hardest part where I had to say, now what can I make mine again? What games are going to be officially mine? How do I carve out time that's just me and my friends hanging out?
And like the dice you roll in D&D, you're such a multifaceted person with your online personality, your family, the things that you keep private. I just love hearing all the different sides in you and seeing how they all kind of come together. What do you like about D&D? Where's that love come from? I understand that fantasy creature is disgusting. Don't touch me.
Yeah. The monster. It's such a shame that like because I started playing D&D probably heavily 2001, and man, the zombie movies started up like real soon after that. Just like endless zombie movies, and it sucks so bad because I remember D&D DMing in like late middle school, high school, and you would be like, "There's a skeleton on the road," and everyone's like, "Ooh."
Skeleton.
Weird.
Yeah.
Gross, weird skeleton. And then they're like, it twitches. And they're like,
Oh.
no way. No way. And then a nearby body raises up its internals and fall out. And everyone's just like, gross. I've never heard of this. You're messed up. That's amazing. I can't wait to play more of your game. And then Dawn of the Dead and Left 4 Dead, and like everything does zombies for like 5 years, 10 years straight. And nobody cares about
Zombies anymore. Yeah, it's Celestia, yeah.
You lost that edge. For me, like D&D is a lot like MOBAs in that it's about that versus kind of people aspect. And I will add the addendum that it's never the DM versus the players, the community. We're building a story together. I'm not trying to kill them, but you just kind of fire out all these things and you're trying to see what sticks. And that's what's so fun. And that's one of the hardest things about digital D&D is that it's really hard to get that in someone's face or their eyes. So often, you do the skeleton on the road. And sometimes you'd have a group that's just like, skeletons, whatever. Yeah. And you're like, okay, noted. You do not care about skeletons. And then they go to the cave and you're like, oh, there's spider webs. There's sticky webs on the wall. And one person is like, oh, gross. And you're like, yes, they're really gross spiders. You're right. I'm going to keep spiders in this campaign because they get you. And then the next person, you do a vampire and they're really excited. So you're like, spiders. Vampires riding spiders. Like, exactly. We got this. The best campaign ever. And in that way, I never really started a D&D campaign. We're going to do this big epic and my final bad guy's this. I see what interests the players along the way and we create that thing that is just special for them. And they can't go get that at a video game because there's always going to be like parts of a movie you don't care about or a part of a game or a character that shows up and you're just like, oh, come on, this isn't for me, but I'll keep playing. I like the other characters. And you're able to make something just wholly unique there. Which is also kind of weird about streaming D&D because it's like, I'm making this wholly unique thing for my friends. Would you like to watch?
Yeah, because I think it's something about D&D like you're describing, and when I played before, it's this personalized experience between a group of friends that like kind of dick around together or hang out with each other and know each other's likes and dislikes to create this unique experience. But it's so interesting that you get this voyeur experience of come hang with me, my friends. And this is kind of like what we talk about and what we think is interesting. Do you guys want to come in? And so what is that experience of actually holding that for people and having other people kind of watch and almost maybe judge or critique or enjoy? Like, what is that like?
I mean, luckily there's a lot of openness because everybody's excited to learn how to play and maybe get ideas or things for their own game. So rarely do you get anybody who is just straight up like, everything here is awful. And
reverse Lego movie, yes.
Yeah, everything. Yeah, nice. I would say the weirdest deviation from live play D&D versus show D&D is that the audience remembers things that the players will not. If I introduce some wizard and nobody cares, and everyone's like, hey, this is supposed to be like main plot guy. He's showing up. He's going to tell the whole lore. Everyone wants to talk to the cute dancing goblin. I mean, you just ignore the wizard. But the audience remembers that there was a wizard who showed up and mentioned the bad guy's name and whatever happened to him. So you're DMing for the audience at the same time you DM for the players. And sometimes you have to be like, I know my players don't care or don't remember this thing anymore, but I have to solve that plot point and that thread I started. So that's not frustrating for the audience.
Oh, so you're like keeping in your mind a sixth person that's not there, but they're there. And they're very important that they're there.
Right, a very rules-mongery sort of person who has all the notes, and it takes a lot more notes to run an online D&D campaign, just because you can't, he goes by many names, the character that you've forgotten the name of, or if your accent's off, you're like, oh, so you go back to your old episode, because it was recorded for you too. Mm-hmm. So you go back to your old episode, you like look him up, and you're like clicking around the 3-hour episode, being like, oh my God, what did my satyr sound like? Okay, there's his accent. Okay, cool, I'm ready for today.
I can only imagine what it's like to think of that. Oh, I have to keep this in my mind. Even they don't care. This person cares, and I have to go actually make sure that the plot hole is fixed and there's no loop. Something that really, really strikes me for the second time you've mentioned it is the whole purpose of why you liked video games, or even, I'm sure it's for the fantasy and for the characters and things like that. but mostly it's for this connection with people or this interconnectedness between people and the experience between them. And I think that's different than what some people think video games are about or for, and why they're so unhealthy is they just see this person in their bedroom by themselves or not really talking to someone like live. And I'm guessing, like, what is your opinion on people's thought about video games and being quote unhealthy?
Oh, that's an interesting question. The popular opinion that comes up a lot in comics and whatnot is, how can you watch that streamer? You're just watching someone else play a game, and then the parental unit goes and sits in front of the TV and watches football. But there is that reality to it. I think that something that was really amazing about video games, and something that I think caught people back when we first started Starcast, even middle school, elementary school, cafeteria setting, where you would turn to your friends over your mushy bowl of whatever and your carton of milk and say, who do you think would win, a battle cruiser or a carrier?
Oh my God.
And then you'd go, well, what upgrades do they have? Well, okay, he's got a Yamato cannon and we've got a full set of interceptors. And you just have at it for like the whole lunch period.
The correct answer is carrier, but anyway.
Yeah. Well, maybe the battle cruiser is not targeting. Like, and that's the other question. Did the Yamato cannon the carrier directly, or is he auto attacking the interceptors and getting confused? By the way, I have no idea which one win right now. I don't know the term. There's a freedom to that things like you're just playing alone are so toxic to, because you're just enjoying yourself with people and other friends, and to squash that is such an awful thing. There is aspects of health that are concerns. Oftentimes it comes down to just having a healthy diet and all things, like not just food. You got to play multiple games to be a happy person. If you only eat one food, you're going to feel awful. You're going to get tired of that food. And you got to be able to have other activities and go level up yourself and pursue yourself, whether that's body related or mind related, whatever it is. You got to be always stepping forward. And I think that competitive games in particular, you're not going to learn that unless you embrace healthy mindsets. The previous lead balance designer for Here's the Storm was a karate teacher. That is so one-to-one. Lifting heavy weights so that you can lift heavier weights. It's the same. You got to find ways to improve, and you have to find all these little micro areas to push it even further. So there is an unhealthy atmosphere with choosing to insta-buy the thing that you've really been wanting. I never pay any money in my card games, like Magic the Gathering, because then I'd have everything I want. I'd be bored. I want to slowly unlock. I want to enjoy this journey and pursue something eventually that I become. If I could just have that instantly, that's where it's just unhealthy and, well, boring. So maybe a little off topic what you asked, but maybe in the zone.
I literally have chicken skin. The truth that you just laid down. Basically, what I've been hearing from what you've just said is that basically you need a balance. Sure, video games could be unhealthy if that's all you do, and if you only played one game. But if you level up in other areas of your life, playing other games, eating healthy diet, going to exercise, reading, sleeping, all these things, video games is just a piece of your life that's not unbalanced. But left unchecked, sure, there's unhealthy things that go along with it. But if you use video games to connect with people, that visual of just eating over your sloppy fried rice or sloppy Joe or whatever and talking about Yamato, I just can see that. And using video games, and you can extend this technology or whatever you want to enhance your life, to connect with people, it actually be a benefit. But if used in the wrong way or left unbalanced, it can be detrimental. I guess this leads me just curiously, now that you have a 2-year-old son, how has that, as a dad and as a father, has that changed your perspective of video games and letting your son play video games, or maybe stewarding him in having a balanced life with video games?
There's a lot of that I haven't had to answer yet because he's only 2.
Yeah,
but
you got to start him young, man.
Yeah, I've certainly been thinking about it. I started the Pokemon Unite show. There was a MOBA coming out for a controller-based game. I'm like, oh, that sounds healthy, because I'm at a computer. I want to play a game on the couch, and I want to divide up my game time in different aspects and enjoy different rooms of the house as well. So I was already pre-invested. I didn't own a Switch, but I said, this plus this game, I will be able to play Mario Kart with him in a year, when 3-year-olds can kind of start to understand that what's on the screen is reacted by what you're doing on the controls. And a lot of this is due to just Kristen being amazing and loving reading and being very athletic and loving activity. We only do 1 day of movies a week. We play our D&D game on the weekend, and for that, he gets a phone, and for 4 hours, he can go through the connoisseured YouTube selections that I've created on that phone. And he loves dinosaurs. He loves trucks. Like there's videos about Katie's Classroom, Super Simple Songs. There's some really great channels out there that are doing awesome work.
I can only
It's also
imagine how many times you've listened to Baby Shark. Oh my gosh.
That was an instant hit, yes. And Baby Shark does have a cartoon that's actually pretty decent. Like the kid learns lessons, the Baby Shark. Actually, no, hang on. That's Super Simple Songs is Finny the Shark.
Oh, different shark. Friends though.
Pink Fong's Baby Shark, that is a corporate commodity. That thing's creepy because they have toys, they have mac and cheese, they've got a TV show. They want you to like and subscribe at the end of their song when it plays. Like I'm like, and someone even came to me and was like, Kyle, He-Man, right? That was there to sell toys. I'm like, yeah, I know that cartoons were often made to sell toys. Dino Riders, like I've shown him Dino Riders, but he can't buy those nowadays, so he can't even ask me for them.
I know we're going on a tangent, but now I'm just curious. Does Baby Shark have more than one hit song?
So Pink Fong makes multiple songs. Most of them are riffs on the Baby Shark tune.
Shut up.
But most of my rejection, besides the buy and corporate kind of entity of it that was creeping me out a little bit that I've gotten over because of He-Man, the real problem I had with it was that it was augmented and sped up. So my son would be like clapping his hands and be like, sing it, Dad, in his own way, asking me to sing it. And it's just too fast. The Super Simple Songs version is like more acoustic. It's sung by real live people and I can keep up. It tells a story about how the sharks are hungry and they chase the fish and, the fish get away and there's like a whale that scares them off. Like, there's no threads left open for my D&D mind. I know what happened to the baby shark and why it loves its parents and stuff. Right, exactly. Where are we going?
Sorry, your 2-year-old son playing with him.
Oh, yes. We keep the videos and all that to a very big limit. And I think encouraged him to be more interested in reading and exploring and playing outside. And it's been really awesome to see. And plus, it's awesome to emerge from my office and have a little dude who is like, let's go outside. Let's go kick around a ball or something rather than, hey, I'm watching stuff. I understand different life schedules for everybody. Everybody's got to do different areas and that. I'm really proud, though, that we did limit that TV time as much as we have with him growing up. That being said, I know 3 years is when he can play Mario Kart. I'm super duper excited about it. I'm really stoked.
It's so cool that you're going to get a built-in play buddy, man. Whenever a new thing comes out, you can blame them like, oh, no, this is for them. I'm just going to get it for them.
Right.
And
I'm just encouraging him, right? And, and it's already come up. He loved trucks. There was some construction by our previous place. The diggers were going and he's like, what's that? And you're like, I don't know. I got to find out. Well, it's a tractor with plow. It's an excavator. And you start learning all the words. So in that way, like if he loves Fortnite, I'm going to play Fortnite. And I'll do my sort of grid-based don't get motion sick thing. And I may not be as great as him because of time investment and all my friends aren't playing it. But I'm really excited just to see what he gets into. And I'm hopeful, of course, that it'll be in the top-down MOBA, in the sort of games I enjoy. But whatever he gets into, I'm there and I'm into it.
This is so cool because sometimes I talk to parents about video games or even people in the older generation about video games and what they are and how we can actually use them. And I tell them the story about one time we were at a LAN at UC Irvine. To practice, we went into their practice esport arena place and there was actually a kid and his dad sitting next to each other playing Fortnite. I wish there was a video or just them just having such a blast together, even though Fortnite may be an individual game, but to them together, they're playing, look at me, dad, how cool is this? And to see them actually interact and bond over something that is supposed to be evil or unhealthy. It's like, wow, just look at these two people really interact and really connect over Fortnite or a video game or something that they both can enjoy together. And like you said, even if it's not I'm enjoying Fortnite, what I'm enjoying more is that I get to spend time with this little person that I created. And for me, that just makes my heart so happy and like, oh, I'm so excited for your son to get that experience, to actually have a parent that's interested in something that they're interested in too, because I can only imagine what it's like as a kid when you're exploring your world to find someone else that's just as stoked as you are for something so simple or something that you're interested in.
I would get a lot of like, oh, where did you get that growing up? We've never skied. Did you ski, honey? No, I've never skied. Oh, where did he get that aspect of skiing from? And you can just kind of have your own unique likes and dislikes. And my biggest kind of divide from that sort of path was I went to my parents and I asked, why am I not popular? How can I get the popular kids to like me? And my mom, being very honest, was like, well, you talk about Pokemon too much and you want to go play D&D. You probably shouldn't do that. I mean, these sort of things are what call you out and make kids not want to hang out with you, perhaps. And I wasn't old enough to express myself, but in my own head, I kind of had oh, Well, if they don't like me because I'm loving what I love, I don't want to be friends with them then. I'm just going to go play D&D and enjoy what I like. Why would I restrict my passions for what other people think? I feel like that's easier to come by a little bit on the internet today, but if we were talking about like toxic things that happen to people, like that's insane to me that anyone would want to squash your imagination or what you get up to.
Well, first, how old were you when this happened?
I mean, this would have been 8th grade when I was really concerned, really concerned about what the popular kids thought. And I really wanted to play D&D, but I was afraid of the stigma of it. Now, I will say, like, my parents, once I committed to things, very supportive. Like, you want to play D&D? It's decided. I was the one who kind of put them in that situation over middle school of wanting to be the popular kid and wanting to pursue that stigma, that wanting to be accepted with that strength. And so they helped me or were helping me pursue what I believed I wanted at the time.
That's awesome to have that support. I think it's really cool that you also made that switch of, well, I don't, versus, oh, okay, I'm going to stop talking about playing Pokemon, but I'll still play it. What was that like? Is that easy decision for you? Did that just make sense, or did that take some mulling over time for a small little developing 8th grader? I'm just trying to think of how that's like after working with multiple 8th graders and such.
That's a good question. It was really condensed because I was at a private school at the time. I eventually went back to public school after that. New Mexico was a very small kind of area. So this private school was like a class of 12. Wow. So when I say the popular kids, like there's like 3.
It was Evan, Becky, and someone else. Yeah.
Exactly. They're right there and they're fully realized, personified in my mind. And when I wanted to be a part of that group, that's who I was trying to be. It wasn't some nebulous thing. And then when I was over here with all my nerdy friends trying not to be part of them, getting picked on a little bit by kids outside the class as well. So not just the 12. It was way easier when I went to public school, you know, amongst 3,000 other kids. And you could just be a nobody and it didn't matter. And you could just kind of disappear into the background. I ended up getting into the theater and doing the theater kid thing a lot. So if you remember high school theater kids, they were really weird. And I was there with them. But I was also being the super nerdy guy, and theater kids, Dungeons and Dragons, it wasn't that big of a divide anyway.
Wow, so this theme of pursuing your passion and being who you want to be, that's something that has been a constant theme in your life, it seems.
Yeah, at a core, maybe it's like the justice of it, you know, like just at a core level, anytime anyone tries to squash down what someone wants to do, if they're doing it healthy, drives me nuts. It's very much along that lines of like anytime I'm watching a movie and there's a misunderstanding, like Hitch or romantic comedies, like I saw you like apologizing to someone on the doorstep saying you love the other person, but you accidentally saw them and now you've assumed this other thing. It drives me insane. I'm just like, just talk, just communicate. Don't chase them down in the airport. Just somebody pick up the phone. Somebody be honest here.
Then you would hate Korean dramas. Don't watch any Korean drama. You would hate it. Absolutely.
Oh, no. I do not watch a lot of human drama. I love cartoons. The only reason I was able ever to watch Always Sunny is because I finally made the connection as to which character was who in SpongeBob, and I could process it as a funny situation.
Wait, which one is SpongeBob?
SpongeBob? I think that's Charlie. I think Charlie's SpongeBob. Because he's a hard worker. He wants to do the best all the time, but he's kind of naive and gets himself into trouble because of it.
I can see it.
Which I guess Danny DeVito's kind of Patrick, but he's also kind of Mr. Krabs, but it's not a perfect analogy.
Oh my God. I'm a big Sunny fan. Now I'm going to rewatch it with a SpongeBob lens. This is my new homework assignment. Oh, it's going to be so fun. So with you and Pokemon, tell me how you've smashed this love of Pokemon and MOBAs together and how you've been playing with Unite. What do you think?
Oh, I mean, I think it's a great game. I think it has some of the most fascinating psychological aspects of any game that's ever happened.
Oh, tell me. Yes, tell me about it. I'm into it.
Do you know about the bots?
No, I don't. What about the bots?
So if you lose, and this is dependent on your league and dependent on kind of how many games you've lost, but in general, if you lose 3 games in a row, the game will give you fake players. It'll give you bots to battle who appear with real names, with portraits and everything. They usually surrender around the 5-minute mark. They always run away at 30% health. So you can kind of start picking up on some of those seams. But in that way, a MOBA game, imagine if Heroes could recreate this.
I would love it.
You lose 3 games in a row, you're feeling awful. You're going to play one more because, I just want to win before bed. And you crush it. You destroy that game. and you say, you know what, I like this game, I'm going to tell my friends about it. Now, of course, for 10 cent and all that sort of thing, I'm going to now spend money because I don't hate your game. So there's a financial aspect to it too, but it's just so genius.
Wait,
and
is this legit? Like, how do you know?
Well, the best way to know is exactly 5-minute point surrender, the 30% runaway, but you can also look at their profiles in the load screen, and they won't have any stickers on all 5 of them. None of the computers decorate their starting character image.
Lazy.
I know, right?
Not creative at all.
They gave it away. But these are like Guy XX Lord, like the names are very video gamey. They're just video game names. You can't really tell based on that. It's not like a BattleNet does where if they take away your name, they then give you Battle Pants or Player. Yeah, exactly. They look like gamer names. And for the most part, because it's a very tight 10-minute game, the seams don't show because you're not getting into that late game where the choices and combos matter that much.
I feel like you've just Morpheused me, and I wasn't ready for the red pill. Like, I wasn't ready. And now that I'm here, I'm just hoping that I lose enough to win. You know what I mean? Is that possible?
So, that's the interesting thing. So as you climb in rank, and right now everyone started at the bottom rank, kind of Hearthstone style, and then climbs their way up. So if you made it to the top ranks, you're never going to fight any bots, really, because there's your win rate will never be low enough that it'll engage a bot match for you to feel better.
Oh my god, so they went GRE rules on this, did they? Where if you take the GRE and you notice that the test is getting easier because you're doing bad, they give you easier questions if you get the next question wrong.
Yeah, very much that style. And in that way, all the players of Pokemon Unite have a 50% win rate. Like force 50%, as people call it in a bad way, but even the lowest of low people who would be like in the bronze, awful, stuck their zone, having day after day of just awful game, wanting to quit, but for some reason they keep playing, still get a 50% win rate and still feel pretty good about the game and enjoy themselves.
Dang. So when you play it, are you playing it for enjoyment? Are you playing it for the stream, for competitive? What are you trying to do with the game?
For me, it's still very exploratory. I'm taking my time with it. Like previous games, I've always hit ranks super hard, got to prove myself and be that. I feel like I proved myself through Heroes. I know how to play these things. I'm just enjoying the journey and getting back into Pokemon. I was super into Pokemon in 6th, 7th grade, Generation 1, and then Magic the Gathering took off, and then MOBAs, and I kind of followed the thread off into World of Warcraft and all that sort of thing. I'm rediscovering Pokemon, but there are the Pokemon, the heroes in this that scratch itches that I didn't know I had or aren't available in other games. So for Heroes of the Storm, it was Diablo. Slamming people into walls, picking them up, repositioning. Couldn't do that in Dota. In this game, Pokemon Unite, it's Gengar, who can poison somebody, and then you run around in wild circles and teleport back to them and run around. There's a kind of mine aspect of it. And as much as I might sit here and be like, it's all about making friends and being community, I love seeing people run. I love
messing people up.
Yeah. But like not like trapping them in combo. It's that moment of fear that you see, and same thing for D&D. If the skeleton twitches and they all go, no, not the skeleton twitching, not vampires on spiders. That's what I live for. So when you do the first combo to that guy, and now Pikachu's permanently afraid of you on the enemy team, and every time he sees you even walk around, that Pikachu starts running. That's when I'm like, I got him. And now I got the good juices. This is what I'm about.
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't lie. What you want is you really crave is this on the other end. Fucking Gengar. Stupid.
Yeah. Run from me. Run from me. Don't let him touch you.
As a Cinderace one trick, I hate you. I hate the Gengar. I'm just minding my own business, farming, having a good time, just trying to level up, doing my job, and just out of nowhere, just get ganked.
To be fair, you got that feint, and I can dodge my teleport, which makes me go on cooldown. So if I poison you, do your feint dodge backwards, and I will dive you, miss, and I won't get a cooldown reset, and I'm out of water. You can soccer ball all over me.
For the record, it's not me, it's my button. When I try to push Z2, LZ2, it just doesn't go to feint. No,
yeah,
but that's what I want to do, for sure.
Definitely. Easy dodge, no problem, right?
Yeah, no problem.
Easy dodge.
What do you think about Zapdos and Zapdos' position?
That is probably the biggest barrier to mental full investment in the game.
Oh, okay.
Not that Zapdos I see as a problem, because I think that we're in Nintendo sphere. We got these bots too. There's nothing wrong with a blue shell, some lightning on Wario Stadium. For me, I never report for gameplay unless you quit. That's my line in the sand. If you stop playing, we're done. So every time anyone's like, I want to surrender in a 10-minute game, I'm like,
It's 10 minutes.
No, we're
yeah.
not.
Yeah.
Right? You signed up to play a game. You sat down on your couch in front of your TV and said, for the next 10 minutes, I'm going to play a game. And you want to stop?
We just started. Yeah.
How did you make this commitment and discover you did not want to play a video game anymore? I want to see the devs do something about it, just so we know the devs do something about it. Like, I don't see it as the fundamental pyramid on the horizon issue. I just would like to see them react to the community's thoughts on it and make those changes that the community wants so that we can know we have a healthy dialogue.
Right. So you see an issue, you just want to see it get addressed for the commitment of Nintendo to say this is something we're listening to the community. Unlike Smash, this is something that hopefully they listen to.
Right. And it seems that like with the balance flowing pretty regularly every 2 weeks, with the Pokemon coming out regularly, like there's going to be content, and the balance was rather elegant. I did enjoy how they push things around. They didn't remove the fun of an ability. They just maybe increased the cooldown or lowered the damage. They're going about it in interesting ways. The real show for me is when you change things like attack speed, because that shows you're really thinking about it. For instance, in Here's the Storm, Dahaka recently got a attack speed increase, but that only means his every 5.5 attack is faster, or you only get after 5 seconds an additional attack. So on paper, you're like, whoa, buff, why would you do this? But Dahaka has to be committed for a full 5 seconds to actually see any benefit from that attack speed increase. So that's a very minor buff and affects every talent that affects auto attacking. So now they've buffed every auto attack talent, but only once every 5 seconds. And you see that cascade effect. So right now they're doing very similar balance in Pokemon, not just going through and saying just a nope, that's bad, nope, that's bad, nope, that's bad. They're maintaining what's fun about the ability. They're just finding other ways to nerf it.
What are some other psychological things that you like in Pokemon that you said are inside of the game? Besides the every third, you get a free, basically.
Yeah, if you're on the losing spree, you get to kind of keep at it. There's clearly the marks of Tencent and mobile business, like the treasure hunt. You play one game and like all your items that you've collected or unlocked are across 3 different menus. And everyone's like, I hate the menus. I'm like, do you though? Like,
do you though?
Right? Think of going to the closet and you're going to get ready for an adventure, right? Like the hero or Terminator grabs one gun off the shelf and leaves. Ripley on the elevator. That's the best one. She's got to put on clasp the belt on her chest. She's got to get the flamethrower. She tapes that together with the other gun. Like she does her hair back. She breathes heavy. The elevator, like it's part of that journey. Whether your brain knows it or not, having all the items across 20 menus makes you go, I got to go get this. Got my grenades now. I got to go get this. Got that. Got to turn the locks. Beep, boop, beep, boop, put in the key, scan my eyeballs. Like it all speaks that treasure hunt discovery that can be a lot of fun.
The first thing that my brain goes to is just like a list of drugs. You got to go and get the drugs. Then you got to prepare the drugs. Then you got to go use the drugs. It's the same kind of adventure, right, like you said.
You got to find the back alley that's dark enough. I'm sure if it was all just there in a brightly lit room where people could see it, might be less inclined and it'd be less fun. I don't know, but it might be less fun.
Probably. Guessing before Prohibition, it was probably more fun, but you just go to Safeway and just grab a beer now. Where's the fun in that?
Right.
You go to the speakeasy and know the password and know the people. I'm sure it was a lot more adventurous, right?
Yeah, the adventure. Exactly.
The thing that I'm really learning now in Pokemon or watching and trying to apply past MOBA knowledge to it, it's like, okay, when should we be pushing lanes? When do you got to go back? And is this really what we should be fighting over right now? Because I think people are just like, we should kill the Zapdos, we should kill all these things. Like, is there an order that we should do them in? But I can't do anything because I'm just throwing soccer balls. I'll just do it in the back.
I mean, nothing terribly wrong like that. There is a rotation. There is a preferred farming method through the woods. Hit the top guide to get your, I think you do the bull font, I think his name. Again, I'm a Gen 1 player, so I'm still learning, but you do the buffalo dude first because he gives a buff that helps you clear Pokemon. And then you go through the jungle and you do this certain rotation. By the time you're done, you get back up. And that's very important for things like Gengar that don't come online until level 7. You just got to hide because it's way too dangerous to go out there. But if you're playing something like Ninetales, or Cinderace is a really good farmer, just does amazing damage. But you wouldn't be as bad in just like getting the lane and enjoying kind of the 5v5 slamming together ARAM-ness.
See, I don't know why, because I went from HoTS, I was playing HoTS a lot, and then my wife basically commandeered a Switch from her brother. Now we have a Switch and we've been playing Pokemon, or I've been playing. And something that you've been saying, I've been a classic 151er back in the night, red, if you had any other choices incorrect, red. I don't know why, it's like something, maybe I like the sounds of it. It has that 8-bitty piece of it, so it's reminiscent, but it's got a MOBA to it. It's got things that I know and I don't know, so it's nice to, it's all coming together in this one little game.
Well, and it's fast paced, and the Pokemon are extremely unique. One of the first things you think seeing this, they also unlock the menu over time, so it doesn't immediately strike you that there might be 1,000 menu things. But you get in the game, and you're thinking, I basic attack, I get these abilities. I don't really know what they do, but they seem to do something. They do damage. This game must be very simple. But then you go look at the Pokemon like list of all their abilities, and there's a third basic attack that's always unique and does something. There's a passive. There's two abilities. You choose which one you want first and cover them up and remove them completely later on as you choose from 2 other abilities per slot. And then the last few minutes of the game, you get your Unite ability, which is your heroic, and you maybe get to use that 3 times throughout the game. The time is condensed so tightly, but there's already huge depth to the Pokemon themselves.
Yeah, I think that's something that I really enjoyed too, is that they took things from the MOBA, the essential things, the essence of it, and made it really small, a nice 10-minute game. Not really big commitment. I can play a 10-minute game and that it'd be fine. Or it's less, sometimes they surrender. But it's not like we'll start and see where this takes us kind of a thing. And this may be an hour and a half experience to play 3 games or whatever. But no, we're going to play 10 minutes, that's it. That's what I really like.
I know a lot of people who do this, and I think it's a device made through childhood as a video game player, but you learn to outlast your family. So it's like, oh, I'm getting kind of tired. And you're like, you should go to bed. So you want the TV so you can play Nintendo 64. So you're sitting there, watching whatever the movie is for the 5th time with your little sister, and you're just hoping that everyone goes to bed so you can have the TV. And MOBAs encourage that to a really bad degree, particularly the older ones at like 45 minutes to an hour and a half. You would really need to make sure nothing in life was going to happen if you were going to fire up a MOBA. But this thing, I was cooking potatoes. It had 20 minutes on the potato timer. My son was engaged in IP, some independent play. He had his dinosaurs. He was slamming together. I'm like, that's at least 10 minutes there. He kind of blink around the corner a little bit in the kitchen, and because I can't let him see the Switch. He doesn't know what it does. He's never seen the screen. He's seen the box, and he's seen it on my desk. And Nintendo knows how to make it. Like, pulled it immediately out of the dock, held it correctly immediately, and was just like, yeah. He was just like, I'm ready. What is this? This looks like the best thing ever.
Nintendo's like, oh, yes, our target demographic. Perfect.
That's perfect. Perfect. So he needs Mario Party now.
Yes. But that's exactly what happened to you, too. It's like, oh, I'm going to take a shower. It's like, that's at least 10 minutes. Okay, cool. Yeah. See you, babe. Bye.
Exactly.
Have you tried League of Legends mobile version of their game? Wild Rift?
No. Lack of monsters is ultimately what keeps me away from League of Legends. It's a lot of humans. And I'm seeing the New World MMO coming up, and I'm like, that looks like a lot of humans. I love Witcher 3. Oh, best game ever. Amazing. But all this content they keep making, it's all about humans. They're like, new Netflix cartoon coming out. The king is dead. The lords have gone. And I'm like, where's some monsters? I would literally like do one human quest and then be like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. I need to go hunt monsters for like 3 hours in order to recover from this.
How are your dreams? Are your dreams crazy with monsters? Where did this fantasy of monsters and don't touch me things come from?
Well, I probably saw Ghostbusters when I was too little. Amazing movie, by the way. I don't know, but hanging out with my son, I don't think it all makes perfect sense. Like, it's some of it's nurture and some of it's just nature. Like, some dinosaurs, particularly like with the feathers now and these like really humanoid faces, like in the dictionaries, the dinosaur dictionaries, they're freaky. They're freaky beasts. And so like I'm turning the page, he grabs my monster manual off the shelf, and I'm like, yeah, all right, take a look at that. Let's do it. First thing is I've never actually said it aloud, so I'm not sure because I've never gotten to use it because it's like level 20, but a tropal, an atribal or something like that. Okay. It's an undead god baby.
It's undead god baby?
Like a floating demon fetus. It's hideous, it's frightening, it's freaky. And he's just like, yeah, next page. Yep, next page. Like dinosaurs eating other. Sure. You're like, oh, that guy's face falling off. He's a lich. No problem. Whereas when I was growing up, like anything like that would be in my mind for days and just like haunt me. I remember seeing the original Broodware box and Kerrigan being all creepy on the front and being like, that game's wrong. This is freaky stuff. Everything would sit with me like that. I was at a sleepover. It was a lock-in, a LAN party kind of situation. And some kids, this was 8th grade, watching Aliens 2. And there's the chest burster kill me now thing going on. And that's all I saw. And it was horrifying and it stuck with me, but I had to know more. Why? Why did you? What was going on there with the chest burster? I need to know more. And I almost just like stare at it until I can deal with it. And then I love it. I'm terribly freaked out monster. My dreams, however, are all about like forgetting I had a college course to the last day. And then I suddenly remember I've never attended this college course and I have to go like most of my bad dreams are all school related that I forgot to turn in something or forgot I had a class.
Classes, undead demon baby.
Yeah.
Classes, chest burster. Classes.
Yeah.
I guess each their own. I guess. I mean, I guess not attending classes and not graduating. That's pretty scary. But the demon monster, I've seen you before. We're cool. We're chill.
Yeah. It's fine. It's fine. You know, I honestly don't know where I loved Ghostbusters. I remember it was a real trip because I went and watched, I was going to look up the real Ghostbusters, the cartoon show, and just watch an episode because I hadn't watched it since I was like 4. And I opened an episode randomly on YouTube and it was called Collect Call to Cthulhu. And I was like, no way. And I started up and Ray is sitting there with the other Ghostbusters telling them about how Cthulhu, they called it on the show, but Cthulhu's he's gonna arrive and there's these cultists and they're summoning Cthulhu and a woman comes out and she's like, I'm an elder caster. And she goes, Aya Dagon, Aya, and like starts doing the classic Cthulhu chanting. I'm like, is this the nurture? Like, I played Call of Cthulhu, the video games. I love Cthulhu stuff. What the heck? It's just all part of some like cartoon I watched when I was 4.
Okay, not real question, but if you saw a ghost in real life, would you be chill with it? Or would you be like, this is too real?
No. I've got battle reaction, you know, it's not good, but like for the most part, if I can hit it, I'm going to be okay. But I love that Conjuring movie. Damn fine movie when she's like, there's something in the corner. Oh, and it's like not there. And the old lady hasn't appeared yet. Like once she's an old lady, I'm like, I'm done. Like, it's fine. We're going to be okay.
True.
But when it's just somebody like looking at a corner that's empty. Oh, no.
Yeah. I feel you.
No.
I totally am down. Oh, what was it? Not The Conjuring. It was, but when they showed the demon at the end, it was like, this is whatever. Demons, whatever.
Yeah, it's Ben.
Yeah, it's not scary at all. I can totally see it, and it's totally punchable. But yes, so aliens. You're chill with aliens from another planet because you can punch them. That's what I'm hearing.
For the most part, I've also like been alive long enough that I haven't been abducted, so I'm doing okay. Like, you know, but that threat has decreased over the years, right? I grew up in New Mexico, right?
I didn't know there was an expiration date of getting abducted.
I grew up in New Mexico. Like number one existential threat was aliens. And everybody knew it. Roswell, New Mexico, X-Files was really big. Light coming through your window at night. You hover out the window and you're gone. And it was super duper freaky. But it hasn't happened yet. And plus, when you got a little dude hanging out with you too, there's kind of like this, like, I mean, I'll protect you. Like the need to protect, like overtakes your need to be scared in a sense. If a ghost did appear and my son was nearby, I would deal with it way better than if I was by myself. Because at least I'd have a goal in the sense. Like,
that's true.
Alone by myself, I'm gonna freak out. I'm gonna stand in the corner. I probably won't run. I'm just gonna lose my mind. But with a kiddo, you got to run. You got to throw some stuff behind you. There's a process that has to be followed.
And when you mean throw stuff behind you, not your kid, right?
Yeah, no, like, you know, as you run by, you knock down the bookshelf and then all the stuff falls. Like the classic psycho killer kind of movie stuff.
I see that. Dude, I just glanced down at the time and it's 11:27. We've been vibing for almost an hour and a half. And dude, we covered so much. We covered HoTS. We covered how you got into this. We covered your journey of becoming a fearless streamer and parent. Father, all of it, all the way to aliens, Pokemon, you name it, man. We can't cover the entire gambit. Thank you so much for spending so much time. Any shout outs you want to give before you go, or any last minute thoughts, dude?
Yeah, no, it was great getting to talk about all this stuff. It can be so news related or show related that these unmoving topics like history and how we got here, I don't get brought up much. So this is really fun. I appreciate the invite and the chance to tell those stories.
Yeah, anytime, dude. Anytime you want to come back. It was so nice to learn about you and learn more about your story and who you are as a person. I think the little off topics just give it some more flavor and a little more fun, in my opinion. Dude, shout out to your wife, Kristen. Thanks, Kristen, for letting him come play and doing all the background work, too.
It's an incredible thing. I'm exceedingly lucky to have her. I couldn't do it without her for multiple reasons, but also I can't spell.
Amen. So I don't think I could have written that dissertation. There's too many green and red squiggly lines all over that Word document. I totally know what you mean. Any other projects that you got going on that you want to shout out or tell people about?
Yeah, we brought up Into the Nexus, the Here's the Storm show, which is perched in such an interesting way during these times as the game that is almost on the outside of Blizzard. So that show has been rather hard news recently, and we're covering a lot of the ongoing situations there over at Blizzard. But check that show out if you enjoy Here's the Storm, or also if you just enjoy like hard Dateline, Frontline style news and reports on that. Also check out AO's Clubhouse. We talked about Pokemon Unite today. Loving that game. Fresh show coming out tomorrow for that. If you're interested in Dungeons and Dragons, DM Gives Inspiration is the 15-minute max show where I do learn to play content for 5th edition D&D, advice, how to run a ball, how to read a character sheet, how to figure out what skills are, how to make your own monsters. And then there's There Will Be Dungeons, which is the live play show at about 3 hours an episode. And that's where you can see the actual sausage being made kind of DMing that I talked about today, where it's going where the players want, the group-based storytelling.
Nice. How long does that game go for? 10 shows? Or is it a one shot each time?
Oh, There Will Be Dungeons?
Yeah, that sounds really fun.
So we're currently on the 3rd season of the arc, which is 12 episodes a season. So this whole campaign will be 36 episodes when it's done.
Nice. Well, thanks again, Kyle, for hanging out. Hopefully we can do this again very, very soon. And thanks to you all for hanging out in the queue. And as always, my name is Dr. Ryan Terrell, your Psych Sensei. Thanks, Kyle, for joining me today in the queue. And we'll see you guys then. All right, friends, take it easy. Pieces. This coffee is good, but you know what's even better? Boom! This episode of QueueUP right here, or boom! My other content right here, or poof! Right here, my website, psychsensei.com. If you want, you can visit any of these other resources. It's like a choose your own adventure of improvement. And, well, until I see you next, my name is Dr. Ryan Terrell, your Psych Sensei, teaching you to think, play, and slay, baby. One day, one video, one thing at a time. And remember, friends, stronger mental wins. You're getting used to these extended endings. I know you like them. So much so that you'll see you in the next one. Pieces. Bye.